Good evening. This is Maestro with a video with some important messages, channel updates, and life updates. Now, as a YouTuber, I know that people don't always stay for the whole length of a video, so I'm just going to start out with the most important thing I have to say, which is thank you for your support this year. It's been about 7 months since I started uploading on my channel again, and over that time I've received many kind words of support. I haven't always replied to these comments individually, so I just wanted to take the opportunity to say it now. Thank you. It doesn't take much effort to show kindness and gratitude, but it does make a difference. Now, on the other hand, there have also been a few times when some people have been a little less than kind. Now, before coming back to Dawn of War, I had spent 4 years playing Heroes of the Storm. And if you've played MOBAs, you know that they're kind of known for their toxicity. But the organized Heroes of the Storm community, their Discord, their competitions, are actually very good at establishing cultural norms that discourage toxic behavior. And I wanted to share with you a quote from one of their community leaders because I think it applies to Dawn of War 2 as well. "This is a community keeping an admittedly struggling game up as best we can. We all love this game, and we want to keep this going as long as we can. No matter how little anyone wants to hear this, eventually, this game will die. Whether it's in a year or 10, depends largely on how long our existing players stay with it and how welcoming to new players we are. Insulting players makes that horizon shorter than longer." The only thing I would add to that is in our community, we don't just have the players. We have the casters, of course. We also have the Elite Mod developers who came from the community because they were players themselves. We also have a lot of viewers who may not even necessarily play the game, or maybe they just don't play it very much anymore. And that's okay. We want this to be a community that's welcoming to everybody. The next things I want to talk about are channel support as well as some personal life updates. And it might seem a little strange to put these two things together, but they are actually kind of intertwined with each other. A few people have asked me either if I have a Patreon or they've recommended to me that I start a Patreon. I've actually deliberately chosen not to create a Patreon because I feel that the monthly payments nature of it kind of creates an expectation of continued content. And the honest truth is that I'm not 100% sure that I can guarantee that. It is actually possible that sometime in the near future, life events could take some of my focus away from casting. One of the reasons I originally left casting was to focus on my career. As some of you know, and for those of you who don't, I'm a teacher by trade, and it's a very demanding job. Now, one of the circumstances that led me back to casting was that I was experiencing a downturn in that career. I taught full-time for about 3.5 years, but I wasn't always under contract, so I wasn't always even being paid a teacher's salary for doing a teacher's job. Then, the coronavirus quarantine hit, and I was basically furloughed and suddenly found myself with a lot of free time. Free time that I ended up using for doing some casting. But with school year starting up again, it is possible that I could get a new contract to teach full-time. And this is something that I want very much, for professional reasons, financial reasons, and most importantly, personal reasons. It matters a lot to me, but it would also take some of my time and energy away from casting. I'm not necessarily saying that I would stop casting entirely, but at the very least I probably would have to slow down a bit. Now, if I don't get that contract to teach full-time, then instead I would focus on my attempt at my next career, which is voice acting. Some of you might remember this because I mentioned it earlier in the year, and I've actually already been pursuing this kind of casually, kind of like as a hobby, and I've been cast in a few amateur projects. And when I say amateur projects, they are unpaid, basically things where to get experience, since it's new territory for me. I've been cast in a Star Trek audio drama, a Star Wars machinima, and a Fallout mod. Now, if I don't get that teaching job, I would definitely kind of step it up and start pursuing it a lot more seriously. Online trainings, classes, and lots of auditions. It would definitely be more flexible than a teaching job, and it would be easier to keep up with my YouTube channel, but at the same time, I would be choosing the hustle of the self-employed life, and it would definitely become my main focus. Now, this brings us all the way back around to the idea of supporting my channel. Now, although I've chosen not to make a Patreon, there is still a way to support me financially if you really want to. Every single one of my videos actually has a PayPal donation link in the video description. And I'm a bit more comfortable with this because PayPal defaults to one-time donations instead of monthly payments. So if you've ever been entertained by my videos, you can make a one-time donation of any amount with no obligation or expectation to donate again. But if you really want to, PayPal does also support scheduled monthly donations, and I want to give a big shout out to Adil Zia, who's actually been donating to me on a monthly basis since February. And donations are never required, but always appreciated. I'd like to close this out with a few important shout outs. First shout out goes to Indrid. His channel is literally the single biggest public forum for Dawn of War 2 on the internet. And this game simply wouldn't be where it is today, which is actually still alive against all odds, without his extraordinary consistency over the years. I also want to shout out my boy Red Rupee, another Dawn of War 2 caster who you should check out if you haven't already. Both these guys have helped me out quite a bit over the years. When I started casting again in January and I didn't have many replays to cast, Indrid sent me over a RAR file with about 100 of them. Red Rupee likes to do coverage of live Dawn of War 2 events, and he often reaches out to me for co-casts. Now I know you're already subscribed to Indrid, but you should subscribe to Red Rupee as well. Lastly, I want to shout out Impregnable, the community's primary event organizer. He organizes the monthly team tournaments, and of course, the faction war events. It was also his idea, not mine, to cast Faction Wars as a best of 5 series. He puts in a lot of work, he's very dedicated, and he doesn't always get the gratitude that he deserves. And that about wraps it up. I hope you've enjoyed staring at my shiny face and listening to me talk. And as always, have a good night.